Hello everybody, welcome to Housing Bubble 2.0 News of the Week, or as I like to call it, another episode of As the Housing Market Turns. Today is September the 2nd, we're into a new month, I hope everyone's doing well. Here is the question for today. Is it possible that we could have a housing boom and a housing bust going on at the exact same time in this crazy market? Well, you know what, stick around and I'll let you know if it is possible for sure. My name is Randy Patrick, I'm your host. Putting the realism back in real estate because no one else does. Let's get into it right now. But first of all, if you're not already a subscriber, if you could certainly help my channel grow and click the subscribe button, I'd be most appreciated. Thank you. All right, guys, let's jump into it right now. We got a lot to talk about. So the question for today is, can we have both going on at the same time? And, the real estate market is kind of a dichotomy right now. We certainly have huge price gains going on one side, and on the other side, we have a lot of distress, forbearances, foreclosures, whatever. So how is this going to play out? Well, I know. We'll see what happens as we go forward here. So this was a great article that I read from Wolf Street, so wolfrichter.com, wolfstreet.com, Wolf Richter, and this was really interesting. And to be upfront, I actually did on Monday, I don't know if you guys saw that or caught the information, but I did a Facebook live stream for a couple hours, over 2 hours on Monday night, to talk about this. And why I wanted to focus on it, it really was revolving around the FHA mortgage delinquencies, how they are spiking and surging. And we looked through 170 metro locations across the country. So clearly I'm not going to do that on YouTube here because that's going to take far too long. But the point is, I thought I'd just sort of bring it down into 20, 30 minutes, talk about what's going on here so I could share that with the rest of the people here. So ultimately in the end, and I think it's really important, we're talking FHA, FHA buying, which I think everyone can relate to. That's almost like subprime right here. So the headline here is subprime mortgages fall massively delinquent, taxpayers on hook, housing market splits in two. On one side, land rush by a few 100,000 home buyers. On the other side, millions of homeowners with delinquent mortgages. Here are the metros by FHA delinquency rate. Two of them exceed 27%. So I'm going to go through the top, say 20 or 30 with you guys, but it's one of those things that we got to think about this. So FHA, Federal Housing Administration, prides itself on ensuring, subprime mortgages with low down payments, low closing costs, and easy credit qualifying. All are true, especially if we take a look at things like, debt to income ratio and stuff like that. So of its active portfolio of 8 million mortgages that it insures, 17% were delinquent in July, which is the highest rate in FHA history. So, people, I like to make comparisons to the last housing, we'll call it boom, bust, crash, crisis. So, this is the highest in FHA history. So this didn't even happen back in the day, all right? In many metro markets, the delinquency rates of FHA mortgages are above 20%, which is huge. And in two metros, they're actually above 27%. So, this is not a couple of points here, people. This is a significant amount of FHA delinquent mortgages in these various metro locations. So as we go forward, we'll talk about the mortgage here that it's considered subprime. And why is it considered subprime? Well, it's because the FHA insures mortgages of borrowers with lower credit score. So, 620 and below is considered subprime. If the borrower has a credit score of at least 580, the FHA will accept down payments of only 3.5%. If it's below 580, it's still not a problem. The down payment increases to 10%. So the problem, though, is that many of the people in this FHA loan segment, whose mortgages are insured by the FHA, have lost their jobs or have had their hours of work reduced. And in terms of lenders, the good thing is that they don't carry the risk. The FHA, and hereby the taxpayer, i.e. all of us out there, we carry the risk, all right? And, what the comments are, well, good thing that the home prices have risen in many markets in recent years. People who could fall behind could pay off their defaulted mortgage with the proceeds from the sale. But the point is, where are they going to go? Okay, so that's my situation here. So yeah, I might be able to sell my property, but then I'm now in a situation where it's hard to buy a new property. I have to maybe move to renting, et cetera, et cetera. So, and with the pandemic and what's going on, not everybody wants to do that at the moment here. So this is very important, though. It says, the widespread home price declines that occurred during the subprime crisis of the last housing bust have not happened yet. And that's why at the moment, no one's panicking about these sky-high delinquency rates. So we talk about them, we look at them, we can analyze them, but what are we going to do about them? Well, right now, they're delinquent mortgages. So there's nothing we can do until they fall into, say, the pre-foreclosure market opportunity. Then we can start to engage homeowners, etc. From that perspective. What you can do, I mean, we don't, when you take a look at the list here, it's not like we know who they are. But they are potentially distressed homeowners. They have to come to the service to look for assistance to sell their property or want to sell, etc. It's interesting. So during the last housing bust, this phase happened, but it didn't happen up front. Home prices started falling for other reasons, and then forced sellers and their lenders tried to sell their homes, which put enormous downward pressure on prices. So, that's what happened last housing crisis. We're kind of seeing this hit first now, all right? This time around, and this is why I'm talking about the market now. On this time around, the housing market is split into two. On one side of the population, there's some sort of land rush going on at the moment with people trying to buy everything in sight. On the other side, there are people who are delinquent on their mortgages, but the numbers are skewed. On average, there's 460,000 people buying a home every month, but there are now millions of people behind their mortgages, including about 1.4 million whose mortgages are insured by the FHA. So yeah, you've got this kind of, as you said, the skewed range of numbers here. So there is a boom on one side of the housing market, and we know that because we keep seeing, CaseShiller still squeaking out, modest price increases. We see, Realtor.com saying, July, average price points, gained, or median home sales price gained 8.5%. So we're seeing competition in many markets still, and we have low inventory. So we're still going to see, I guess you could say, unnatural price appreciation based on the situation going on with the marketplace right now. But there's already a bust forming on the other side of the housing market with respect to these mortgages. And this is a really important point here. So, but this is true. Like if you think about it going, and I can put myself in everyone's perspective out there, in everyone's shoes. I'm here talking about housing bubble, housing crash, and the chaos we're going to have in the future. But right now, the market's not showing that. And listen, I get it. I'm very clear on that. I understand exactly what's going on. So right now, we're seeing artificial inflation of values. We're seeing the market being skewed because of lack of inventory, upward pressure, government stimulus, low interest rates, buy, keep going higher and higher. But we're not seeing the bust side because of forbearance, because of moratoriums, because foreclosure processing has been put on pause for all these mortgages, prior delinquent mortgages and current delinquent mortgages. Now everything is kind of in limbo. So we're not really seeing a balanced market with respect to what's going on. So we're seeing a controlled, artificially managed market as far as I'm concerned. But really important here, FHA mortgages are far from the only delinquent mortgages. And Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, the VA, Ginnie Mae, and others are also experiencing surging delinquency rates, but just not to this extent. So the FHA delinquencies are just a segment of the show. So realize that today we're going to talk about the FHA delinquencies, and you're going to be kind of shocked. Listen, I was shocked when I saw this, but it's really, look, Fannie, Freddie, VA, Ginnie, conventional. Okay, so Fannie, Freddie, GA, so and so we got, that's fun. We're not even talking about 5/6 of the other mortgage segments. We're just focusing on 1/6 of the mortgage segment. All right. So realize that when you start adding the other delinquencies and things that are going on, stuff's going to become problematic in the next little while. All right. So his article was based on information that released by the American Enterprise Institute, who produced this information just the other day. So now 10 metros most threatened by high numbers of FHA delinquencies based on FHA July 2020 delinquency rates data. So this is the most recent data that they have that we can look at here. So, here's the thing. Rising FHA delinquency rates threaten homeowners and neighborhoods in numerous metro areas across the country. 10 metros in 7 states present especially large risks due to the combination of a large FHA portfolio containing a high percentage of delinquent loans, all right, and seriously delinquent loans, These percentages include loans in forbearance and an FHA share of all purchase loans in 2019 that's greater than 15%. So this is the top 10 you're gonna take a look at. Top 10 most exposed or most dangerous, threatened markets. Okay, it's not your top 10 numerically, but it's top 10 for what they think are problems. All right, but I want to point something out. So where my red arrow is, it says an FHA share of all purchase loans in 2019 of greater than 15%. So the corresponding information here is that, a lot of these, 15% or more of these loans in this segment, this location, were originated in 2019, so last year. So what does that mean? That means these are recent purchasers who basically now are in a delinquent status. Are they delinquent because of forbearance? Possibly. Are they delinquent because they lost their job? Possibly. Are they delinquent because they don't have enough cash, because they overbought and now had a small down payment? Possibly. It's a number of reasons, but I think it's interesting to point out that what they're suggesting is that combining delinquencies with recent loan vintages is problematic, which to me, kind of implies, implies like, is this subprime 2.0? Because if you look at the last housing crisis, all right, and I know that lots of articles written about this, lots of videos, etc. The last housing crisis started off with, which was, with the subprime mortgage crisis, the subprime mortgage meltdown, the mortgage meltdown, whatever you wanted to call it. I mentioned this many times in my discussions, what I produce information-wise in these videos, that the subprime mortgage sort of, issues was not the entire situation for the last housing crash and crisis. It was a contributor, and it kind of was the kickoff. You see, it was the first group that went, because they were typically mortgages that were given to people who probably shouldn't qualify, with variable interest rates, and when those rates changed, the owners found they couldn't handle the mortgage payments, and chaos ensued afterwards. So in a way, this is almost like subprime 2.0, because you have a lot of these, and those were recent loans that happened, 2004, 5, and 6, and now 7 and 8, we have the housing crisis going on, okay, starting. So kind of like here, we've got, 2019, and now we've got all these problems 2020. So if you think about it, it's almost, this situation, this kind of phenomenon is almost compressed in time here, and it's rearing its ugly head. So all these people that bought with low credit scores, low down payments, probably high debt to income ratio, because that was part of the non-QM, for the government availability. So this is where people are going to get stuck. So for me, this is just like subprime 2.0. All right. So it would be expected that these delinquency percentages will increase over time. At some point, a significant percentage of the then delinquent loans would be expected to be placed in the market by owners under distressed conditions, or become foreclosures and then enter the market. It is at that point we would expect buyers markets to develop in zip codes with heavy exposure to FHA and other high-risk lending, combined with high levels of delinquency. So that's exactly what's going to happen. So at some point in time in the near future, owners are going to go, I got to sell, which means they got to sell quick. Here's what I always say to people. Buy at the peak, 3.5% down. All right. So that's all you put down. You had some closing costs and stuff as well too. So if you were to sell your property in the open market, what I mean by that is listed with a real estate agent, traditional sale, and go under contract, go to a title escrow company and close. Well, you're actually going to be underwater at the closing. You're going to pay 6% on average in commission, right? 3% on each side, buyers and listing agent. You're going to have a couple of points for closing costs and traditional things like that. So right away you're at 3.5, minus 8% in closing costs, and guess what? And commissions, and now you're negative 4.5%. So are you going to bring money to the table when you're not making money on the closing? I don't know. There's where the distress comes in. So therefore, people are going to maybe sell property cheaper if they possibly can, not use real estate agents because they can't afford it. Oh, can't pay my mortgage. We get into short sale scenario. So a lot of these things are going to happen as this unfolds. All right. So as reported in the FHA Neighborhood Watch, which includes loans in forbearance. 17% of the FHA's approximately 8 million loans were delinquent in July of 2020, and 10.5% of the 8 million loans were seriously delinquent. So for we'll call it for our theory here and for definition sakes, delinquent is 30 days down, so minimum 30 days. You're 1 month overdue in your mortgage, you're now delinquent. Seriously delinquent is typically 3 months or greater, 90 days or greater. So 3 months down. After the 3 months, you're now seriously delinquent. Typically, I guess you could say the chances of people bringing their mortgage current as they go into serious delinquency falls dramatically. All right, so majority do not bring it current. All right, so here's the top 10 metros, and again, this is the top 10 most threatened metros. So look at this list. It's going to be a little different. The top 10 on a pure numeric scale will change my next slide. But right now I want you to look at the top 10 metros most threatened by high numbers of FHA delinquencies. The top metro is Atlanta. And if you take a look at these numbers, you can take a total across the top. You've got what? 8 million, just over 8 million FHA mortgages. It's like Atlanta. So the Atlanta Alpharetta metro area, okay? We're looking at 21% delinquent. We're looking at 13% seriously delinquent. And the FHA share of 2019 vintage is over 20%. Then comes Houston, the Woodlands area of Texas, Riverside, San Bernardino, Ontario, California, the Baltimore metro up in Maryland, San Antonio area metro in Texas, Orlando, Kissimmee, Sanford, Florida, which is about an hour and a bit away from where I am. And next is where I am at personally, Tampa, St. Petersburg, Clearwater. We're looking at the higher numbers there. Nassau County, Suffolk County, New York, that I believe is the Long Island area. And just as an FYI, if you take a look at the number of delinquent loans, this Nassau County is at 27.8%. They're one of the 2 locations with over 27% delinquent loans. All right. Fort Worth, Arlington, Grapevine. So again, they're up there as well too, and the Philadelphia, Pennsylvania area. So those are your 10 most threatened by high number of FHA delinquencies from the volume of delinquencies and because of the 2019 loan vintage shares of those counts. So again, the far right column is how many FHA loans that are delinquent for that area were originated in 2019. That's the numbers there. So again, Atlanta, Houston area, Riverside area, Baltimore, San Antonio, Orlando, Tampa, Nassau County, Fort Worth area, and Philadelphia. So a lot of locations, a lot of people, and a significant amount of delinquent loans. So this is why when people go, I don't think we're going to have a housing crisis. Well, not every one of these delinquent loans will become future foreclosures, but a good bunch will. And we start seeing these numbers stack up. It's not, as much as we have forbearance and loan modification, all these great things, and I'll talk more about this as I go through here, but it's not going to solve everyone's problem. Simple as that. There will be carnage here, and it will change the landscape in the face of the real estate market. All right, now this is sort of the list from a numeric perspective, so there's some shifting going on here, but I want to go over this so you understand it. So really, we've got Atlanta, Houston, Chicago popped up on the pure volume list here. Okay, and again, I don't know why they picked the top 7 or 10, whatever it was. Houston's next. Sorry, Chicago, then Washington, D.C. area, Alexandria, Arlington, Dallas, Plano, Irving, Texas, New York City, New Jersey, White Plains, New York, obviously Riverside, San Bernardino, Baltimore, Phoenix, Mesa, Chandler, Arizona. So those of you in Phoenix that are suffering from, we see on CaseShiller, Phoenix always leads the year-over-year price appreciation. Hey, maybe you're going to have some luck in the future because Phoenix really is up there with respect to an active portfolio of 137 FHA loans with 13.8% delinquent and 7.8% seriously delinquent. So it's not as much as the other locations, but it's still a start because Phoenix is very expensive. Los Angeles area is next. San Antonio area we talked about. Orlando, Tampa, Nassau County. All right. Fort Worth, Arlington. So you've got Dallas on one side and Fort Worth on the other side. So that whole area is going to be an opportunity, and again, Philadelphia. So when we take a look at the numbers here, so New York, New Jersey, White Plains was the other group that had over 20% of delinquent loans. So you got New York, New Jersey, White Plains, and then you've got where was it? It was the can't find it here, can't see. You had the Nassau County with 27.8. So two areas concentrated up in the Northeast have a ton of delinquencies, all right, going on. So this is what we have happening right now. Again, remember, this is just FHA, all right? Now, I just added some more here for everyone to look at. I know it's tough to take a look at, but I'll have a link to where this is at. You can actually download the spreadsheet, which is nice. So next is St. Louis. We got, then Newark, New Jersey, Pennsylvania area at 26.3% delinquent. So that whole New York, New Jersey area, Long Island area is just getting beaten up for sure. Las Vegas, okay, 19.4% delinquency, okay. So clearly we know Las Vegas is going to get hit. The Miami Beach area, so once again, another Florida location. So funny enough, we see the typical players or locations in, that we saw last housing crisis that we know have foreclosures going on now, and look at the FHA stuff. So it's the same players over and over again from what I can see here. Definitely the Miami Beach area. Next is Minneapolis, St. Paul. I was actually surprised to see Minneapolis up here just because it's really more volume here. Obviously, it's a big city, but I guess, and it's expensive. So when you start looking at cities and expenses, that's where you'd find maybe some more FHA in the play there, you see. Next is Charlotte area, Indianapolis area, Fort Lauderdale, Pompano Beach, Sunrise, Florida. That's just above, that's Broward County, just above Miami-Dade County. 25.8%, so that's significant. So in Florida, we got going on here, I'll get to Florida in a second here. Camden, New Jersey, 21%, again, back up in the tight Northeast. Cleveland, Ohio, Denver, Lakewood, Colorado, Cincinnati, Ohio, Warren, Troy, Farmington Hills, Michigan, Memphis, Tennessee, Kansas City, Missouri, Virginia Beach, Norfolk, Newport News, Columbus, Ohio, Nashville area, Pittsburgh. You got, what else here? You've got Austin, Round Rock, Georgetown, Texas, Jacksonville, Florida, New Orleans area, of course, Richmond, Virginia, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, Detroit, West Palm and Tampa, 22%. New Orleans was 22% above as well too, and clearly now with that area of Louisiana with the storms that are going through are going to cause problems. So you can take a look. West Palm, as I mentioned, as well too. So in Florida, we got West Palm, we got Jacksonville, we got Fort Lauderdale, we got Miami, we got Tampa, and we got the Orlando area. So pretty much every major city area in Florida is, we're talking up there in FHA delinquencies, double digits, close to 20, if not over 20%, which is not a good thing. We got a big concentration in the Northeast, stuff in Ohio, stuff in Texas, the usuals, in Los Angeles, etc., and Riverside area. So, it's Chicago, Washington. So really nothing kind of really phases me anymore because these were the metros in the last housing crisis that had issues. So, again, nothing's changed. It's the same cycle, same pattern. So, but the point is, now we can see stuff coming. Like this is the great thing is we can see this coming a mile away now. We have the stats. People are tracking them. We know what's going on. So, this is kind of why we're going to have a housing crash crisis. And I want to share something with you, which I think is glossed over quite a bit by mainstream media. A lot of people who are out there commenting and giving their 2 cents worth on what's going on with respect to this information. This came from one of our viewers, and it was a great email that I received. I'm not going to mention who they are, where they are, and I emailed them back to say that I'm going to use a quote this because I think it's important to understand. So this really is, for me, I just look at an average person who says, I want to find a solution for my housing needs. What am I going to do? So they lost their job in early April. They're on the forbearance plan. Clearly, where they live, the Department of Labor, they're backlogged, so it's tough, getting the money. But with the extended benefits, I would have no problem keeping up with my payments. I know I can't be the only one in this situation. Thankfully, HUD has expanded the forbearance protection. They now have new programs in place to help borrowers keep the homes. The caveat, this is really important here. You have to be working to qualify because unemployment does not count as income. All right. This is, I guess, the narrative that's being spun is the fact that we're not going to have a housing crisis because we've got all these things going on there that are helping people and pushing our foreclosures and our distress to a later date down the road. Everything's going to be okay. Well, you know what? Again, he or she, I forget, can't qualify because their income is unemployment income. All right. So my perspective is all these forbearance homeowners will not magically reset their mortgages. All right. We've got approximately 4 million people in forbearance. Numbers ebb and flow. Some we've seen, weekly decreases of forbearance. People inactive forbearance. It actually didn't decrease this last week through. We're now, if you think about it, April, May, June, July, August, end of September will be the first six months. So we could see, more forbearances, like people falling out of forbearance and then getting re-entered into forbearance and things like that. So, but my point is, and again, this is forbearance. This is a part of the problem. We've seen the FHA delinquencies, and we know that there's other delinquencies with the other lending segments out there. Not everyone will qualify for solutions, all right? And again, as the quote from that email said, unemployment is not income. You can't. They won't do a loan modification. They won't move around the monies that you owe 6 months or 12 months worth of non-payment because you can't, if you can't pay your mortgage, because part-time income, reduced hours income, and unemployment income is not going to cut it when they do the financial analysis, right? They can't refi because of that situation. So what are these people going to do? They're either going to stay in their property and ride it out the best they can while chipping away at their equity, because again, the minute your forbearance is over, now all that equity or your lack of equity, what you've not paid for, is chunking out of your mortgage. If you think about it, when you got to sell, you got to bring that current, right? Pay that stuff off. So you've lost equity over this next 6 or 12 months. Unemployment's not income. Mainstream doesn't mention that. And again, I don't want to doom and gloom for people. I want to put realism back in the world here of real estate. And this is what's going on. So yeah, I can, real estate agents may be telling you buy that property now. Prices are going up. Maybe they will continue. There will be a time when this bubble euphoria is over, and when this is all, when it's time to pay the piper, as they say, it's going to be a little bit of chaos out there, everybody. All right, why? Because we have permanent job losses, right? The IRS came out, the other week and said they think 37 million people have permanently lost their jobs. I just saw the information say, as of last week, 57.4 million people have filed unemployment claims. All right, so and jobless claims are still over 1 million a week. Foreclosure eviction moratorium, putting this off to the future. All right, landlords getting pummeled. Some of them are going to fail. Some of them are going to go, I don't want to do this anymore. Okay, with respect to the moratoriums and things like that, evictions, retail closures, modified capacity when you go to restaurants and places and stuff like that. So less traffic means less money for people, less income. Bankruptcies are increasing exponentially. We have travel restrictions, right? You can't travel. You got to be quarantined, etc. The hospitality, the vacation rentals, the airlines, all those things causing problems. Lack of foreign buyers. Okay, foreign buyers, because of the strength of the dollar, they don't buy as much in our country. Also, number two, they're not coming to the country because of travel restrictions to buy property, and there's also restrictions on the countries where they're coming from and bringing money out of that country. You see, so they're cracking down on that. So we have here's lack of foreign buyers artificially propping up or spiking up prices in specific markets across the country. Shifting living arrangements. Okay, people moving back in with family, kids moving back in with parents. All right, you're changing the way you work now, so you're not having to go to the office anymore, which means I don't have to be in the urban area. So shifting towards suburban exurb from urban. Value shifts. So we're going to see, certain locations, like certain metro locations across the country, may lose value because of mass exodus, where other locations are going to increase in value because of what? Because people are going there for better reasons, for taxation, for their money goes farther there, just for quality of life, less density, whatever. I didn't even talk about this today, but it's like New Jersey's like the number one location. There's more taxation going on, and people are fleeing in droves. I think I saw an article where it's like 7 out of 10 moving trucks or whatever are leaving the state of Jersey, right? As opposed to 3 out of the 10 are actually going from point A to point B in Jersey when people are renting moving vans. All right, buyers are getting priced out, becoming it's becoming problematic for both purchase and rent. So rents rising in some of the other locations, rents falling in the big cities like San Francisco and New York and things like that. So we're seeing more rental accommodation available, which is shifting. Interesting. And new home sales. Listen, new home sales are higher median price points now. So the new home sales, they can't produce enough volume and enough product that can take care of all people wanting to buy a home. And that's number one. Number two, they really can't build in the most needed area, which is the affordable housing segment, because they can't afford to build there. It's too expensive. Land costs too much. Entitlement costs too much. Materials cost. No lack of skilled labor that was here before that's left. So they'll still crank out their properties, but you're not going to spend. You're not going to find $150,000 brand new 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 2,000 square foot homes across the country. They're waiting for you to jump in and buy. That doesn't exist, everybody. All right. Excuse me here. Let's go for the next slide. All right. Also, which we haven't even spoke about. So we saw 2 hurricanes last week in the Gulf. Hurricane, I think it was Marco, and Hurricane Laura. So both hitting or landfall in the same area. So just for example, I know we haven't heard of all the damage and all the issues with the housing, but look at the people who are now exposed. So this is the homes at risk. So you've got over 430,000 homes at risk in Louisiana, Texas, and Texas area from the damage of Hurricane Laura, and we're only in September. We got 2.5 months to go of storm season, and we've already, again, if we're at Laura and Marco, we're already halfway through the alphabet at M, and I can tell you that there's 4 storm systems messing around in the tropics right now. I guess you could say making their way from from Africa, where they sort of generate, and going to the Leeward Islands area into the Caribbean. So those could, again, out of those 4, something can happen, whether we don't know. Also saw more California wildfires, and the issue with the wildfires is that when wildfires come, they burn stuff to the ground. So it's not like you've got wind damage or some water damage that we can replace some drywall, we can fix, etc. The structure's there. The structure's gone in a wildfire. Like, it's toast, obviously. So that makes it more stressful in those areas to find short-term accommodation and permanent accommodation afterwards. So that's, all this adds up on top of a pandemic-type arrangement now, where you can't do certain things, you can't go certain places. Like, this just compounds everything, which is, I'm sure, very difficult for people in those locations. All right, guys. So this is something, this comes off the Mish Talk website, and it just kind of was a guy called Steve. He's a wise owl, I guess. He just was quoted in there, some financial dude, basically saying, the number of homes with mortgage payments past due by 90 days or more jumped big time in July, over 376,000 to a total of 2.25 million. So serious mortgage delinquencies have jumped 1.8 million since July of 2019. So if you think about it, this is real. All right, this is what's going to happen. These will become problems for us and/or opportunities for us in the near future. So, and again, as he says, what happens when these bailout programs finally end? All the payments that were deferred come due. There will be, it could result in a housing market swoosh with respect to foreclosures, etc. So we've heard people talk about foreclosure tsunami and things like that. Well, this is what's going to happen when all these stimulus, bailouts, forbearance programs, whatever, stop working, because they have to at some point in time. All right. So will prices start to fall soon? Well, no, not until we see foreclosures hit the market, until we see a lot of the moratoria lifted. As I said, it's stacking, it's bubbling up. There's things that you can do now, but just realize that, it's like, again, 2 markets going on, a boom market and a bust market. One is happening now, one will happen in the very near future. But the thing is, we're watching them both play out at the same time. So everyone asked me the question, how much will they fall? Difficult to predict, right? Last housing crisis from peak to trough was almost 30% across the nation. Certain locations will be hit harder. Some locations, lost 50% of what they gained based on where they were. Others not so much. So it just depends on Again, demographic depends on price point, depends on relocation, where population's growing. Also, all these mortgages you can see were higher concentration areas, obviously, of delinquent mortgages are clearly going to be problems in the future. So there's no surprise there. This is the recent, CoreLogic, S&P CoreLogic CaseShiller indices. This is the net result here. Is that this? I didn't even do a video on this because honestly, it's just I don't see a point to do any more CaseShiller discussions. I'll just throw it into other videos. The national index, where we were, so we had the 2006 peak in July. We had the 2000 trough in February 2012, and then where we are today, which was really June's value, we're 19.1% above the 2006 peak. So if you go to the previous slide here, the thick dark line is the national index. The other two lines are the 10 city and 20 city composite indexes. So you can see where in the middle there, the thick line humped in 2006, went down to 2012, and it's gone up to a certain point to the right-hand side of the chart for 2020, where we are in June 2020, and we are now 19.1% above the previous peak. As I always say, if we called it a bubble in 2006, we can call a bubble in 2020 because it's almost 20% greater than it was back then. Okay, and just so you're aware, but everything's great, there's no foreclosures going on. This is Miami-Dade, okay, and this is very easy to pick off. This information is why I've shown it to you guys. So the point is, this is what was happening with Miami-Dade this part of the year. 300 and change foreclosure filings in January. Look at them in March. Look at them in February, January, February, March. We had basically 900,000, about 1,100 foreclosure filings in the first 3 months of the year. And then, of course, when COVID hit, everything slowed down. April, May, and June filings have gone down to virtually nothing. 50, 38, and 50 here, right? So again, we're going to see that those filings are going to slow. Well, they are slow. They're not going to increase until the moratorium's over. But if you take a look at last year, take a look at it. Well, I see a year to date of what? 5,320. So this in 2019, 5,320 properties received a foreclosure filing. So it's a year ago. So I can tell you that a lot of those properties are available for short sales. Some of them will do workout plans. Some may be in the forbearance program. Some will do work with attorneys to stave off the foreclosure as far as possible. Others may do loan modifications. But I know that from the stats that I can look through in Florida, that the majority of these end up going to the foreclosure auction and will be sold to foreclosure auction. Therein lies the volume, guys. That's an example right there. Therein lies the almost the disappointment, the fact that those are all potential deals for everybody out there if we could get our hands on them more effectively and work with the homeowners. These are all, again, the majority of these are going to go back either bought by third-party bidders at the auction or going back to the lender, who and the hope is they'll put them back out as real estate owned in the future. You never know, though. They'll do some sales in between, off-market sales, non-performing loans, etc., for other, for big investor buyers. So we may not see a lot of these hit the marketplace. That's the problem. So my point here, though, is that this is real. This is a large county, no doubt, but other large counties are going to have volumes like this as well too. But the point is, this, if you take a look at that list, go to the link and download that list from the American Enterprise Institute. That's 169 metros. So you think about that. I mean, if you're looking for a property in the future, that's a lot of property that's going to become available in almost 170 metros across the country. And I can tell you, if you've got, let's just even take the 4 million forbearance people. If 1 million of those homes became available to retail buyers, to people like ourselves, that's going to change the face of the real estate market. And that's going to provide a lot more, it's going to provide 20% more sales volume, which should in turn, start pushing prices down. So that's why, that's why the powers that be are controlling the market, everybody, and they don't want that to happen. But that's another video for their time. Anyway, so having said that, please, if you want more information, give me a shout. My perspective is this is Housing Bubble 2.0. We just have to wait a little longer for it. Lots of headwinds. People are working against us, or I don't mean that in a negative way. There's reasons why we have moratoriums, and I get all that. Okay, it's public safety, it's helping people. I get it, but realize that we're running two markets here: housing boom and housing bust at the same time. But my perspective, we now have a second chance at a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, because I thought last housing crisis was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Looks like we're going to have a second chance at that coming on. All right. So again, here we go, guys. If you want to get a hold of me, there's my email. Send me an email. Reach out. Buying property, selling property, getting involved in this off-market distress, short sale, foreclosure stuff. That's what I do. That's what I like to do. So reach out to me, please. I've got real estate education services and products. I can help. I can do a lot of turnkey investments down here and other places across the country. I'm talking fast because I'm going on for quite some time now. But the point is, lots going on in the marketplace. And yes, it's a difficult market. It's a boom and a bust at the same time, which is actually, if you think about it, kind of unique, isn't it? Okay, guys, appreciate the likes, views, comments. Share the video if you can. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. We'll look forward to another video before the week's end. Thank you.